Hello and welcome back to Nice News. Now, I am going to play you a clip. Jonathan, run VT.
You're worth it. 3 words we have all heard at least 1,000 times, right? You're worth it. But do you really understand what that means? It's a beautiful reminder to us all that we have worth. You have reason and rarity. There is value in each and every one of us, including you. That is precious even on the days you might not feel it. You never depreciate in value. Those words are there to remind you. So to all those watching who feel like that or have ever felt like that, focus on what I'm about to say and repeat after me. I'm worth it. Okay? Maybe that felt great or perhaps that felt weird. Let's go again. First, take a deep breath and let it out. Forget the naysayers and silence the critics, even if the harshest words are the ones you say to yourself. Do not doubt yourself, and this time speak it louder, really loud. I'm worth it. And the next time you hesitate before going after something you want, the next time you blush and brush off a compliment, the next time you doubt your place in the world, in the workplace, in your home, or in your own skin, say these words to yourself, I'm worth it. And I know you will always say it like you mean it. I'm worth it. Because you are. And always will be. Got that?
Thank you so much. Yes, tonight's show is all about self-worth, self-esteem, and basically seeing yourself as someone of value. It's an issue we've touched upon in other shows, but this week we are looking at it in detail. Our special guest tonight is Louise Sanders, a stress management coach, zooming to us all the way live from Winnipeg in Canada. And Louise is going to help us to explore this topic and, of course, tell us all how to build our self-esteem. But first, as always, we are going to go over to Kaie, who's going to tell us more about the show's topic. Over to you, Kaie.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to the show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. You're worth it. I just love that clip from Viola. You're worth it. It's 3 words that, thanks to L'Oreal, we've heard a million times. But before we get into whether or not we truly believe that we are, let me tease you with some nice news. As always, the links to the stories can be found on our social media pages. We're coming up to Christmas, and one British couple may well be the most festive couple in the world. Childhood sweethearts Kieran White and Tilly Christmas have officially become Mr. and Mrs. White Christmas. They got married in a pre-lockdown ceremony. They've known each other since they were 12 years old, but said that they didn't twig what their last names would be until a friend posted a video clip of them on social media with the hashtag White Christmas. You know, we've talked about how kids have really stepped up to the plate during this pandemic, and Stephen and I have often joked about the fact that we as grown-ups feel that we're slacking. 11-year-old Imogen Papworth-Heidel is one such kid who has stepped up to the plate. She's inspiring people around the world to do over 7 million keepy uppies, one for each of the UK's key workers. In case you're not a football fan and you don't know what a keepy uppy is, it's when you keep the ball in the air with your head or your shoulder or your knees, but you don't use your hands and you don't let the ball drop on the ground. There you go, that's today's lesson. Footballers, including Lioness Lucy Bronze, responded to Imogen's appeal for help. She herself has completed over 1 million keepy uppies and raised over £11,000 for charity. Another kid who's been inventive during this pandemic has been Cormac Thompson from Lancashire. He really wanted to talk to his grandma, who lives in Northern Ireland, but he couldn't get her on a video call, so he decided to record himself singing for her. He sang Danny Boy. Not only did he impress his grandma, but he impressed the people at Decca Records, who have signed him for a 15-song album. Needless to say, his grandma is extremely proud of him, as are we all. So today's topic, You're worth it. You're worth it. 3 words, simple words, but let's be brutally honest. How many of us really, truly believe it on a regular enough basis to make a difference? Yeah. I'll be honest, I sometimes find it hard. This last week has been particularly trying for me. And I find it hard, not just because of what's happened this week, but because I realize I'm breaking years of what I would call societal programming. Genetically speaking, we humans are people pleasers. We like to please people. We like to be liked. We're wired that way. So we look for approval and acceptance outside of ourselves. And we give the keys to our happiness to other people for them to keep. And even as social media encourages us to live our best, most authentic lives, to be empowered, it seems like it's only accepted if we look a certain way and act a certain way. So let's go back to what Stephen knows is not one of my favorite words, empowerment. I know people mean well when they use it, but sometimes telling people you should be empowered when A, they don't know how to, and B, they may not want to, has the opposite effect. I think it's another form of programming and can be quite stressful. Because let's face it, it's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. It's part of the human condition. And sometimes, as I like to say, it's okay not to be okay and to say that. It's not just us that feel that way. Celebrities feel the pressure too. And you would think, oh, they've got the perfect lives, they don't have anything to worry about. But I think maybe they feel the pressure because they live so much of their lives in the public eye. Many of them admit to being overwhelmed, and sadly, some of them, like Caroline Flack and Robin Williams, saw no other choice but to take their own lives. Thankfully, though, a lot more of us are admitting our struggles, celebrities included. Actress Brie Larson has opened up about her struggles with depression and self-loathing, as have fellow celebrities Jamie Lee Curtis, rapper Chris Brown, singer Britney Spears, and actress-singer Demi Lovato. As I've said, I sometimes don't feel that way, and I sometimes find a narrative in my head that isn't the best, isn't the most pleasing. But I think for me, what I've learned is to see it coming and to head it off at the pass. And I do actually speak to myself and say, Kaie, stop it. Just stop it. And I say it in my mum's voice, so that is how I know I will stop it, you know. I understand that may not work for a lot of you. So what I've done is included a link that shows you how you can use perfumes and different types of music to retrain your brain so that you replace low self-esteem with confidence. And I've also included some links entitled You're Worth It. Some of them are short and sweet, and some of them I hope you will find truly inspirational. But before I hand over to Stephen, I'm going to do like Viola says, and I'm going to say it like I mean it. I'm worth it and always will be. Y'all got that?
Those kids, I know we've got more kids coming up, but wow, they're showing us how to do it. They know they're worth it, don't they?
No, they seriously do. I told you, Stephen, we're slacking. We're seriously slacking.
So this theme of self-worth is so important to function successfully in life, with so many people being completely unaware that they've got a self-worth deficit. We are joined tonight by our special guest, Louise Sanders, all the way live from Canada. So let's get Louise unmuted. Hi, Louise. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get straight into this. Why is self-worth and self-esteem so important to successful living?
I think it's important first to recognize what exactly is successful living. So living successfully is not about how much you get done or how much you have accomplished. It's really living successfully as living your full potential and being the best version of yourself. So why is it so important? It's a lack of self-worth leads you to feeling trapped. And not just feeling trapped, but feeling like you have a ball and chain. That self-worth is like a void inside of you and you try to fill it. And when you try to fill it, you always like chase the next thing. So that thing then owns you. Because without it, you can't be full, or it feels like you can't be full. So living successfully is important because then you get to be the best version of yourself and only you can be you.
You've mentioned a word there several times, which we've touched on in a number of shows, feeling. It's the feeling, is it, that is the guide, that the lack of self-worth.
Feeling and the belief. Your thoughts are important too. The self-talk is important, but sometimes you can self-talk yourself, you talk to yourself, but you don't actually believe it, and you know it. You can feel the difference. So that, positive self-talk is great, but if you don't feel the difference with your self-talk, then it's lacking. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so you've identified 3 client types that you've worked with who have all demonstrated low self-worth. How does it play out in people's lives? How do they behave?
It really depends. How they behave, it's almost important to look at what's really motivating the person. So some people, when they want that self-worth filled, they may be people pleasers. But like what Kaie was saying, that, we're all wired to people please, but for some people, they have to please people. Otherwise, they don't feel worthy. Or other people to have, they have to, the only way they can feel good about themselves and feel that self-worth is if they accomplish everything. They have to keep everything, make it look like they have everything under control, and they have to reach the top of the corporate ladder, so to speak, or have the biggest house or the nicest car, so that's another behavior. But really it's because they don't feel that self-worth, so they have to get it on the outside. So other people may actually feel angry all the time, and it's because that anger is driven from a place of, if I'm angry, I can show my power, and when I feel powerful, I feel self-worth. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that we get to try to make ourselves believe that we have self-worth instead of actually just believing it. It's like we're trying to prove it to ourselves and to others that we're worth it.
It can be people then on both ends of the societal spectrum, the big bankers, the people in the big offices in cities earning hundreds of thousands a year, and the people on job seekers or something like that, on benefits.
Yes, absolutely. The people that they're seeking jobs and are what we would say they feel low self-worth, they may actually feel amazing. They might. Yeah. But their circumstances are that they have to look for a job.
So in comparison then, what are the traits of people with high self-worth? What do these people look like?
Yeah, high self-worth is the ones, it's hard to describe what they look like because it's a very subjective point of view. Because seeing someone on the outside, you can't really see if someone is feeling self-worth because it is a very subjective point of view. So they're just comfortable being in their own skin. They can engage in a conversation or not engage in a conversation. It's up to them because the external result is not going to change the way they feel on the inside. So whether they accomplish this or not accomplish it, they gave it a try or they didn't give it a try, they're just okay.
Fantastic. We are going to continue this discussion, but first of all, it's time to go back to Kaie for some more nice news.
Thank you, Stephen. Well, this story, as I said, the kids are coming out. We've got a couple more kids to tell you about, but this story really warmed the cockles of my heart, so to speak. It's about, there's that old saying, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. Well, Robert Carter did choose his family when he decided to adopt 5 siblings. Robert was already fostering 3 brothers from the 5 children prior to the adoption, and he used to arrange for the girls and their foster mothers to meet up so that the children wouldn't lose touch with each other. But he saw how upset they would get every time it was time for them to part. So he decided that there was only one thing to do, and that was to adopt all 5 of them. Now, that's a big responsibility. Robert's 29 years old, and you would think fostering a child is enough of a challenge. Adopting a child is a good challenge. But when you decide to take on 5 children, that's a challenge of another ball game, and I take my hat off to him. You may ask yourself why he decided to do this. Well, Robert had an added purpose. He himself had spent years in the foster care system and had lost touch with his siblings, and he was determined that he was going to keep these kids together, and I just love that story. Our second nice news story football. You know, I'm an Arsenal fan through and through. I make no apologies for it. I'm a Gooner born and bred. But this guy plays for Manchester United, and I've got a lot of time and respect for Marcus Rashford. Normally, footballers only make the front pages of the news for all the wrong reasons, but he's done so for all the right reasons. You may remember earlier this year, he took on Boris Johnson and won with his campaign to give children free school meals throughout the half-term holidays, forced Boris into a U-turn. And he and his siblings were recipients of free school meals, and he continues to campaign on ending child food poverty. Now, he says his campaign was inspired by his England teammate, Raheem Sterling, a leading figure in tackling social issues. Marcus says Sterling's attempts for change showed him that he could do it too. Marcus has now partnered with high-end fashion house Burberry to fund youth centres and has published one of the most wonderful letters you will ever read. You know, when you do an exercise and it says, if you could send a letter to your 10-year-old self, what would you say? I'm going to read you a part of this letter. Please try not to cry. He says, when you fall, which you will, there will always be neighbours and friends to catch you. There's no need to feel ashamed because they will catch you without judgment and without comment. Feel the warmth of those around you and know that one day you are going to have a platform to repay them. I encourage you to dream because sometimes dreams are all you will have. I encourage you to think of better days to come because luckily for us, our dreams have come true. For a young boy who says so little, one day you will have a voice that speaks for many. I'm amazed I could say that now without, a slight tear. That letter is, you have to go and read the whole letter. It is probably one of the most beautiful things you will read this year. It really is lovely.
That's a powerful exercise, isn't it? What
it is.
It is. Yourself, knowing what you know years once you've done a bit more of the journey.
I would probably tell my 10-year-old self, it's going to be okay. I was a very outgoing, very confident, inwardly very anxious child. And I think I would tell my 10-year-old self, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Yeah, I think that'd be me.
I think I'd say lighten up, have fun. It's going to be amazing. Start having the fun now. Then you'll get to the amazing quicker. Yeah. Totally. So we're going back to Louise now. So Louise, before you give us a solution on how we can improve our self-worth, how do we lose it in the first place? Who or what takes it away from us, in your opinion?
It's a very good question, Stephen. The sad thing is we do it to ourselves. We take it away from ourselves. It begins by believing the lie that we are separate, that we are separate from each other, that we're separate from God or from source or from universe or whatever name you want to call it. It comes from believing that we're separate. And when we're separate, we don't have value. We lose, we've turned away, we've cut off our source, our energy source, our value source. It's our being. And so when we cut that off, we feel that we have this hole. And so who did it to us is we did it to us. And I think that's why, going back to what you guys were talking about with kids, that they have it better than we do, or they've got it more in order, is because they haven't lived through the experiences typically that make us believe that we're cut off.
That's amazing.
So,
I was saying to Kaie, I wonder what spaceship these kids are coming down on, because I wish I had their sense of drive and worth at a younger age.
One quick question. You mentioned earlier that we do it to ourselves when we don't realize that we are all connected. What happens if you grow up in a society that tells you you're not connected? How can you then be responsible for that is I think what I'm trying to ask.
Right. Because the society tells you that, it makes it harder. One, it does. Because you're going to absorb the beliefs that you're being fed. But it's to find the truth of it. And I fully believe that God is always with you. God, source, universe, whatever. And he's constantly calling you. So it might be a harder journey to go back to the truth of yourself. But I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
It's harder.
True.
but it's
It is. I asked that from a place of experience. I grew up in this country in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and I think a lot of my anxiety came from the fact that I lived in a society that told me I was different and therefore not worthy. But that was countered by the love and support that I got within my household. So, you know, double-edged sword me, complex woman, what can I say?
I'm amazed. I shouldn't be amazed, but that we're touching on a spiritual answer again.
Yeah. We definitely are.
And that's religion, isn't it? That's not religion.
No, it's not religion.
Yeah.
No.
Spirituality is believing that we're connected, and religion is like the framework of which we practice it.
Yeah.
So it's having a positive mindset and a positive perspective that we are part of the universe and a valued part of and we're all one, isn't it? We're all symbiont, and
That's right. So it's like if you were to imagine a puzzle of all one color, just 1,000 pieces of all one color. Let's say it's blue. It's all the same color blue. It's 1,000 pieces. Well, if there's 999 pieces, the puzzle's not complete. That one piece is important. So we have to remember and fully believe within our body, within our mind, within our spirit, within our soul, within ourselves, that we are part of this picture. And
I love that analogy. There you go, Kaie. You got to think of yourself as a jigsaw, part of it.
And not one of the missing pieces, right? Okay.
And you become one of those missing pieces when you believe you're not part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great.
That's when you've cut yourself off from your self-esteem, because
and you feel it, don't you? When we cut ourselves off, we feel it. That's what we call depression. That's what we call stress. All these things.
Exactly. When I fully believe, and that's what in what we do in our business, me and my colleague, we believe that the spirituality, the belief that you are cut off, that you're separate, is the root of all stress.
Yeah.
So it's a spiritual journey to come back to self-worth and to conquer stress.
So how can we consciously begin working on building up and improving our self-worth? Are there any specific exercises that we can do regularly, make them habitual to?
Right. So I think the first thing I want to talk about here is the idea of visualization. People talk about visualizing, so using their vision. So if you visualize yourself, you can say what you're wearing, how long your hair is, what color your eyes are. But we have something else that's called feelization. So to actually feel yourself. So it's not that you feel yourself outside of yourself. It's like a deep inner feeling of yourself. Feelize yourself.
I love that. We've been talking about feeling and emotional states from day one on this show, haven't we? And you've endorsed it. Yeah.
Yes, it's so important because it's your feeling that changes your physiology, not your thinking. So, and we talk more about physiology in my practice, but the feeling of self-worth is where that's where it's the magic lies. Not just telling yourself, or that's important, and positive self-talk is important, and a positive mindset is important, but the actual feeling of it makes
I've said that. And what we've said before, that chronic particular thoughts in a positive direction create a momentum of emotion, a positive emotion. And
that's right.
Into that, isn't it? It starts with positive thinking.
It can start with positive thinking, but actually can start with positive feeling. And positive feeling is not necessarily happiness and excitement. It can be just a sense of contentment and okayness. Yeah. And satisfaction and gratitude.
We mentioned that before, loving this.
Yes, we have.
So sometimes those emotions actually make it easier to have positive thinking and to have a positive mindset. So if you start with the feeling first.
So it all comes down to mood then, doesn't it? Attitude and your general mood.
So even an attitude of sincerity, you sincerely want to feel better, is already helping you feel better.
Okay. So we said this before, would you say it's like making the internal conversation you have about yourself and the world more important than the external conversation that you're witnessing and experiencing? Because we can watch the news And the news can continually tell us the world is going to pot, everything's going wrong, it's horrendous. Whereas if we sit there and tell ourselves, actually, it's not that bad, my life is good, I've got nice neighbours, and you look for the positive and you're grateful.
Yeah, and you look for the positive. It can be just that you're alive, that you're experiencing, that you have legs, or that you don't have legs. You know, that you have thought. You have the ability to have thought. That right there is something to appreciate.
No, that's brilliant.
Granted.
Thank you, Louise. We are going to come back to this discussion. It's just so important, isn't it? But first, as always, it's time to go back to Kaie for some more nice news.
I'm full of sayings. I love my sayings. And there's another one. If you want something done properly, then do it yourself. Last year, we featured a Kenyan man, Nicholas Muchami, who, after waiting in vain for his local government to build a road to his local shopping centre, decided to do it by himself and for free. He built a road from his village in Murang'a County to the nearest shopping centre, which I believe was about 4 kilometres away. On another continent, Lungi Buia, I hope I pronounced that right, also wanted something built. This time it was a canal, but there was no government funding, so he decided to do it by himself, again by hand, again for free, and it took him 30 years to do it. Lungi lives in an area of India that's prone to drought, so he decided to dig a canal. He built this canal that transforms his village from a barren land into something a lot more fertile. Of course, his friends and family laughed at him, as did the villagers, but it took him 30 years. He's now 70 years old. The canal is 5 kilometers long, and he was rewarded for his efforts with a brand new tractor, which will be used to expand the canal. So that's 30 years of graft to build a canal. Take my hat off to him. Another person I'm going to take my hat off to, again a kid, is 10-year-old Orion Jean from Texas. He was chosen as the National Kindness Speech Contest winner, and he's on a mission to spread kindness around the world in a series of events he calls the Race for Kindness. He was gifted with a cash prize as his win, and he decided to create his very own kindness project and set a target of donating 500 toys to a children's hospital by the end of September. He actually managed 619. So his next goal is to team up with Feed the City to donate at least 100,000 meals to people in need by Thanksgiving. Now, he's had lots of sponsorship. People have given him toys, they've given him meals, foodstuffs, and he thanks all of them and says, I know that we can change this world just by being kind.
This discussion always amazes me. So you mentioned your journey, Kaie. Do you want to tell us a bit more how it is a journey. None of us get to the end and can draw a line and say, yes, I'm self-worthy. Life is always challenging us. But what's been your journey in a nutshell?
I think for me, I said in my introduction that sometimes it's okay not to be okay. And I think when I first started on what I call my WIP journey, we have a phrase in investment banking when we're doing documents, when they're not quite complete, but we're reviewing them, we put WIP, which is work in progress. And I think that I am always, if I stop being a work in progress, I stop living, basically. For me, I felt when I first started my journey that I had to be positive. I had to be cheerful all the time. I had to always look on the bright side. And to me, for somebody who has been treated for anxiety and depression, that was just another form of stress. I have days when I am not okay, and I say I'm not okay, and I take myself away from people. The difference for me is that I know what happens if I stay there too long. So I go for a certain amount of time, and then it's like, I'm bored with this. Life's living, sun's shining, let's get out and have some fun. And I find things to do that make me happy. If I have the money to do it, I'll go out and enjoy myself. Well, not so much during the lockdown, obviously, but I've got a load of books here that I buy. Oh yeah, that's a good book to buy. That's a good book to buy. I've read more in this pandemic than I probably have in the last 5 years. So I do things to make me happy, because as I've said to you before, Stephen, that old African saying, you can't feed anybody from an empty bowl. If I'm not happy, I can't inflict myself on other people. But I do the work to make sure that I'm happy, to recognize when things aren't going to make me happy and step away from them quickly. And that includes people. That includes people. So I said, we're people pleasers. So we like to, you know, we have to be around people and have to be friends with. No, we don't. No, we don't. If somebody is not good to you or for you or feeding you in the right way, there's nothing wrong with walking away from that.
Louise, what was your story? What has been your, and answer Kaie's question, yeah, well, why are you responding with a big smile?
I just love that you're okay with not being okay, and that's a big part of it. Being okay that you can be in a low mood, and moods come and go, and just to acknowledge that you're in that low mood, and that already relieves a lot of stress. It's like, well, I'm not supposed to be here. It's like a stressful emotion on top of a stressful emotion. You know,
and you know what? And you know what? Angry. Yeah, and you know what, Louise? We get to a certain point in our life where we have to battle the low moods due to hormones. So yeah, I'm just like, yeah, there is that. But no, as I said, I'm a continual work in progress, and I'm happy to say that.
Nice, I like that, and I do like the whole work in progress, and I'm with you on that, because my story is a work in progress. That's kind of how I got into what I do. Not that I had self-worth issues to begin with, but I've realized that as I do what I do and teach other people how to conquer stress, I'm realizing, like I shared already, how the root of it is the self-esteem, is the realizing that you are worthy, and you're just worthy because of who you are. So I'm learning it through what I do, and I think it's important for me to keep practicing what I do. And if other people want to practice this too, is the idea of you know how they have the affirmation of I am enough, and I love that, but what I do is it's a feeling of just I am, because when I am, that's enough. Right? So I don't have to keep telling myself that I am enough. It's a knowing. It's just I am, and I know that's enough.
That's the powerful place to arrive at.
It is. Yes, it certainly is.
No,
what about you, Stephen? Where's your journey started out, and where's it going?
Yeah, I've had a bumpy ride, but the most interesting stories are the most bumpy, aren't they, and turbulent.
As they said, no good story ever started with a salad, Stephen. It starts with tequila. Yeah.
I can remember that.
Yeah.
I had an early incident that sort of traumatized me, and I think I actually look back now, I think I had PTSD for quite a lot of my teenage years, and that just left me numb. And because it happened to me, that really knocks you get a bruise, you get an emotional bruise, and it becomes a mental bruise, and you do. And when until you start doing this work and you're conscious of the narrative until you start doing this work and you become conscious of the importance of the internal narrative, your mind can just wander in any direction, and you let it. And I think over years, it's like running a cold bath. I just think a small negative thought about myself just grew and grew and grew and grew. And you do feel yourself you squash yourself, I think. And in that squashing process, you feel worse and worse and worse. And then it got to a point, we all have a kind of like crisis point breakdown, and that's when you begin the conscious rebuilding of yourself. And that happened for me in my mid-30s. And I remember it was a secret. We were talking about the secret before going live tonight, and your thoughts become your reality, etc. And I realized my internal perspective on myself was so damaged, and so I immediately got to work on that. And one exercise I shared previously is that every time I look at myself in the mirror, I tell myself how great I am and how good and look at me, I'm nearly 50, and look how, so it clearly works, all this affirmation.
Nearly doesn't count, Stephen. You're still a baby.
Absolutely.
But it's like Louise says, it's very well to say it, but do you feel it?
Well,
I absolutely feel it.
The past 10 years, I've done meditation. I follow the Abraham Hicks philosophy. It's all about feeling. So I make my feeling state, my feelization, I make that my priority and my energy level. And everyone says, Steve, what drugs are you on? You've got high energy and everything. And it's because I prioritize my feeling state. And as soon as I start to, wobble, I meditate normally, and that fixes me within 15 minutes, or I take myself away, or I just have a duvet day and just chill. And but it's prioritizing yourself. I used to be very much a victim of obligation. Oh, I don't really want to do it, but that people pleasing thing, and that's changed. Yeah.
One of the most brilliant sayings I've you go on social media and people post stuff, and I saw the other day, and it was like literally an epiphany on the road to Damascus. Somebody says, "Look, get comfortable with saying no without any explanation." And I was like, oh my gosh, I have died and gone straight to heaven. This, as I said, it's the guilt, it's the people pleasing thing. You say no, but then you feel you have to explain. No is no.
We got one more story, but before we go to it, now it's mainly for the ladies, okay? But if you don't believe us telling you the importance of your significance, maybe you will listen to this guy. And John, if you want to run VT.
Hey you, yes, you. Today is your day. You got this. You're absolutely crushing it at everything you do, from your job to maintaining a social life to pursuing your passion projects. You are killing it. Ignore anyone who tells you otherwise, because you're amazing. The only thing more beautiful than your smile is your personality. Yeah, I said it. You're more than capable to take on the world, the whole world, by storm. Speaking of the world, did you know that it's a better place because you're in it? I mean, your mum brags about you all the time. Dogs love you. You're strong, you're confident, you're intelligent, you're charismatic, you're the total package. On a scale from 1 to 10, you are an 11. You make me want to be a better man. You're bloody brilliant. You're brilliant. Don't forget it, okay? Do not forget it. Now go out there, take the day by storm, and remember this: I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
Imagine if all actors did those kind of clips. They'd all be up for the Oscar, wouldn't they? They'd all get the vote. No, right, we're going over to Kaie now for our last bit of nice news.
As I said, our life story is again about a kid. This time we're talking about 12-year-old Tommy Romberg, who is raising money for his community by making and selling baseball bats from trees that were brought down in an August storm. The 12-year-old from Iowa originally had the idea as a birthday present for one of his friends, but then everybody saw his friend's bat and liked it, wanted to get a bat. So Tommy decided, with his grandfather's help, that he was going to buy a lathe and make some bats. Now the bats are called great derechos, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, because the trees were blown down in a kind of storm that's called a derecho. With the help, as I said, of his grandfather, he's making the bats. $20 from the sale of each one goes to the Great Cedar Rapids Foundation Disaster Relief Fund. Ooh, said all of that in one mouthful. So far, however, he has raised nearly $3,000 to help out his community. So like I said, we grown-ups are slacking.
Absolutely. We need to.
We seriously are. I have been overwhelmed and overjoyed by what kids have done during this pandemic. And it's like every time, from the time we started doing this show earlier this year to now, every single nice news story has included children who are going outside of themselves to make people feel better. And I think we grown-ups have a lot to learn from them.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. So that is it for another show. Thank you to everyone who made tonight's show happen. Thank you, Louise, so much for your wisdom.
Louise, thank you. You are an absolute goddess.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Louise, you are so worth it. You don't need us to tell you, but all hail, you are worth it.
Oh, you too, guys. You guys are spreading nice news. That's uncommon.
We're trying. We have fun doing it, and it's this year. I don't think any of us will ever live through a year again like this year. And anything that we can do to spread love, light, joy, happiness, and the odd laugh or six, I'm up for.
I like it.
Yeah. So our next episode, well, there is no show in. We are going back to doing regular nice news bulletins, which will be posted as and when on our Facebook and Instagram pages. So keep an eye out for them. Over to you, Kaie, for final words.
Well, final words come from a gentleman by the name of Johann von Goethe. I think, I keep picking up all these people with names that I can't pronounce properly. I think it's Johann von Goethe who said, if God had wanted me otherwise, he would have created me otherwise. And the same thing applies to us all. If God wanted you otherwise, he would have created you otherwise. As Oscar Wilde said, be yourself. Everybody else is taken.